everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to go over the books that I read in March. Now, I'm still going through reading issues, and I figured out that it's not a reading slump I'm going through. It's a little bit more serious. It's more like a midlife crisis that I'm going through, where like none of my hobbies appeal to me. I don't want to read, I don't want to play the violin, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to do anything. It's not good. It's not good. So I want to read. I still want to read, obviously, and I still want to do all the things that I do, but like I'm like having an existential midlife crisis where I'm questioning why I want to do these things and like for whom am I doing these things. Yeah, it's a bit of a mess. But we're pushing through it. We're trying to get through it. So at least let's discuss what I have been able to read in the month of March, even though it's still like not what I want it to be. Starting with the books that I kind of left off February with, and I mentioned that I was currently reading. The first book I was able to finish in the month of March was 2 Years in the Forbidden City by Princess der Ling. I read this because, and I need to stop saying so much. Like, seriously, stop saying But I read this because I had in the previous year read the marvelous nonfiction Empress Dowager Cixi, the concubine who launched modern China by Jung, Chang. And Princess der Ling was her favorite lady in waiting, although she was only a lady in waiting for 2 years. But in those 2 years, she became this favorite because she was a very, very interesting person to the Empress Dowager, in the sense that Princess der Ling actually spent a lot of her youth abroad. She was pretty much raised, although she was born in China, she was raised in Paris. She was there with her father, who was a diplomat, and so she had all this foreign experience. When she came back to China, ended up being chosen by the Empress to become her lady in waiting. So this is actually a primary source. It is Princess der Ling's diary post. It's not written while she was the lady in waiting. She actually wrote it after because it was requested of her. But she basically writes about the first year of her time as a lady in waiting. The second year being so much just a repetition of the first year, she decided not to really go into that, other than mention when she decided to leave. But it was really, really interesting. Now, it doesn't go into the politics of the Empress. It doesn't really go into really too much in terms of like clashes or things like that. But it gives you a really, really fascinating view, nevertheless, of what it was like to be at court during this period of time. It definitely goes over like interesting little tidbits, like the choices of wardrobe, the seasons, how they go over the seasons. It has the famous portrait that was painted of the Empress by a foreign woman, discussing that, and the Emperor saying, well, you know, sitting down for a few hours sounds horrible. I'm gonna sit down for 10 minutes. That's all she gets from me, and then you sit down for the rest. So like, it's just, you get all these little moments about the Empress's personality that are very interesting, almost charming. And it's just a really, really good introspect into this time period. I really liked the parts where it's the Princess der Ling talks about when she first showed up, and all of the other ladies in waiting, or the princesses of the court, will go around and be like, do you think she speaks Chinese? Like, what if she doesn't speak Chinese? And the Princess der Ling will be like, you guys know that I was born in China. It's my native language. I speak Chinese. Like I actually speak it better than you guys because I can actually read. I'm literate. So it was just very amusing because there's definitely, as someone who lives in another language as someone who lives in another country and speaks the language of the country, it's like, yes, I do speak your language. Although in my case, I'm not better than them, obviously. I'm not better than a native speaker, but it's like, yeah, I speak the language. Or even a better example is me going back to France, having been born and raised in the US, and being like, no, I speak French. Like, no. Like, I'm a native French speaker. So it's just interesting how this is always forever been an issue with people coming back to their own countries, speaking their own language, their own native language. I know that there was like this one little tidbit where a princess was like, I hear if you drink the water, you immediately can speak their language, or you immediately forget your own language, or vice versa. And I just really, really laughed at that little part. So it's a great little introspective at the time of the period. It's you know, it's got a regal sense to it, and it's just all these anecdotes that are really charming to read, and it's what makes looking into history a lot more personal and a lot more you're able to put history more into a context when you get these kind of when you get your hands on these kinds of like personal memoirs that I really, really love. My only complaint against this, to be honest, is with the person who wrote the foreword, Graham Earnshaw. So my complaint is that the whole reason that Chang wrote the Empress Dowager Cixi is that she wanted to push away this idea that this empress was a dragon lady, and really wanted to focus on the fact that, you know, maybe she's not a dragon lady, maybe she's just a woman, and then people are very much against a woman having power, basically, you know, like putting basically giving the empress back her accomplishments that were taken away from her because she was a woman, basically. Like that's why Chang wrote this book. So it was trying to really not dumb down, but like remove that dragon lady image and give her back her accomplishments, but not, and it's very importantly, not making excuses for the very obvious mistakes that she made, particularly with the rebellion, which was a huge, dramatic, horrible mistake on the part of the empress. She doesn't apologize for the empress, but even the empress like apologized for that. Even the empress has regrets over that situation. But for some reason, people only focus on that and they take away her actual accomplishments and give them to other people. So the thing is that by like, and maybe I'm biased now because I've read this and not other sources, but like immediately, if you just read the blurb, it says, this book provides a unique and surprisingly intimate portrait of the Dragon Lady who ruled China for 47 years and brought the country to the brink of destruction. It's like, okay. And then in the foreword, the introductory by this Graham Earnshaw, he spends the whole like introductory, the introductory, the foreword. Why the foreword? So he keeps talking about this foreword and he like brings all this like negative bias towards the Empress. Like he just shoves dragon lady into your face. And then at the very last paragraph, he says, certainly 2 years in the Forbidden City is one of the key sources for making a judgment. And it is really for you, the reader, to take your own view. It's like, no, you immediately gave us this negative portrayal of this Empress for this book. Like you set us up in a negative way for this book. And you're not letting us make our own view. You gave it to us to begin with. You gave us your point of view, and now you're forcing that negative bias onto us as we read this. So I wasn't really particularly keen on Graham Earnshaw's contribution to this little book, but the memoir itself is very fantastic. So I really enjoyed reading that. The next book I wanted to discuss that I mentioned at the end of my February wrap-up in terms of what I'm currently reading, and that is The Old Ways by Robert Macfarlane, which is another nonfiction. But this is a book that I DNF'd. I got to page 100 out of about 360, and I decided, you know what, this is not what I'm looking for right now. This is not the book I thought it was going to be, and I ended up deciding to part ways with it. Basically, what I thought it was going to be would be this Robert Macfarlane. He follows the tracks, the holloways, the drove roads, etc. that form part of a vast ancient network of routes crisscrossing the British Isles and beyond. So I really thought this would be a walking travel memoir. He would walk across the British Isles and he would give us his reflections on the ideas of walking and what it does to you, and not like in the sense of like, you know, self-guiding, you know, pray, like find yourself, love, not that kind of thing, not like some sort of, you know, help, like self-reflection kind of book like that, but just really a general like appreciation of what's around him. And that's what I wanted from this book, and that's what I expected from the blurb. But it was just like, it was very much not about him at all. And it wasn't even that it wasn't about him, which, you know, that could be fine. But like, it was just him he kept just referencing other people and what they thought about walking and what they wrote about, you know, the paths in the British Isles, and introducing, well, this person describes Holloways as this and this and this and this, and this person describes this path as this and this and this. And it's just like, you know, if I wanted to know I would read those books myself. So I don't need him to like summarize all these other books about something. I wanted to know about his path. And his parts were interesting. They were full of wit and full of humor, and it was exactly what I was looking for. But I had to read so many other pages to get to those little nuggets of really, really amazing writing that I found myself bored, and it just became not worth reading the rest to get to his parts. So I decided I was going to stop reading this. Next, putting them up here. Next, I read Jules Verne. I read another Jules Verne book who, if you've been watching my channel regularly, you know he's one of my favorites. I love just picking up a Jules Verne adventure book and seeing where it takes me. So this time I read Le Phare du bout du monde, which means the lighthouse at the end of the world. And this is basically about the adventures of 3 guardians of the latest, newest lighthouse that has been built at the tip of Argentina near Antarctica. So I'm not going to tell you what the story is about because it's an adventure story. You should go blind, you should see what happens. I will say though that this is pure adventure. So Jules Verne is definitely known for his science fiction, but this is pure adventure. There's no science fiction. There's none of that. It's actually more science-based because it's the real science about the workings of a lighthouse and how useful how important a lighthouse is, etc., then like the machinations of a lighthouse. So yeah, no science fiction. It is pure adventure, and I enjoyed myself. But I do have to say that this is an adventure story where, like, in one of his longer books, this whole adventure would have been like maybe a 10-page adventure in one of his larger books. So it's almost as if you're taking the tidbit of a larger arc and really expanding on it and really giving all those details for those people who are like, oh, I wish I, you know, could read more about that one instance. So it kind of feels like that. So, you know, so it's going to have its sense of predictability. You pretty much know where it's going to go, what's going to happen and whatnot, but that doesn't take away from the very fun writing and the very fun sense of excitement and turmoil and adventure and whatnot. So very, very fun, but definitely not a book I'd say, you know, if you never read Jules Verne before, definitely read this one first. No, I mean, this is fun if you're already familiar with Jules Verne and you just want to pick up a really good, fun adventure that you could read in an afternoon. Like, that's what this is really good for. So still enjoyed myself with that. Le Phare du bout du monde, the lighthouse at the end of the world. Really love that. Then to get into the books that I was not currently reading at the end of February, this one I picked up. It's the Midwich Cuckoos by John Wyndham, who is a science fiction writer. This is the 3rd book that I read by him, and it's my 2nd favorite. So I thought this was absolutely fantastic. I really, really loved it. It's basically about one day the village of Midwich has been placed under this sort of weird force field, and for one day no one can get in and no one is coming out, and whoever has been tried to go in, as soon as they pass that force field, they tumble over and pass out. Then the force field comes up. It's been removed, and it's discovered that every woman in that town of Midwich is now pregnant. So it's an alien story, and it's basically just like, it's an alien story, but like the thing that I really love about John Wyndham is that his science fiction, as of what I've read so far, which is now the Midwich Cuckoos, but also The Day of the Triffids, which is my favorite, and then the other book, which was The Chrysalids. And basically what I love about his science fiction is that he really injects so much humanity into his books, and he really goes into the idea of what is humanity, what are the ethics behind the situations that are going through, what is society, for example. So he really goes into like really deep questions of humanity while giving you a really fun science fiction story. So with the Midwich Cuckoos, it's interesting because it really goes into the idea of what is motherhood, what is it for something to be your child. It goes into the responsibilities of humans towards these new species, basically. So there's so much to go with, and it really it's really, you know, frightening and intriguing, and it brings you to this terrifying finale where you just don't know what could happen, and the idea of the potential, especially there's this one passage where it's like, oh my goodness, but just the thought of what could happen if you go into these certain ways that are presented to you. What would that mean for humanity as a whole? So super fascinating. John Wyndham is definitely just absolutely a remarkable writer. Now, I don't really read that much science fiction. I mean, I read Jules Verne. I read like lighthearted science fiction, I would say. I've never really read any of the hard stuff, like super in space, battleship, things like that. Like I haven't really read these, but I really like these kind of science fiction that really just is almost an everyday kind of reflection on, just as I mentioned, just humanity, but bring sci-fi elements into the book to fully represent that. So I really love this level of science fiction. Really fantastic. Just so good. Like any reader can read this and I think would really get into it, even if you're just like typically a literary fiction kind of reader. So that was absolutely fantastic. So that's what I finished in terms of books. I did read one manga. I read the latest volume 11 of Goku Shifudo, which is The Way of the Househusband. This is just the continuation of just a charming, you know, comedy series about a former Yakuza who has retired and is now just a housewife. And it's just his antics as he goes through his everyday life. And his friends. Some in the story you're presented with a real estate agent, helping his friend look for an apartment, helping his friend learn how to make house ramen very good, dealing with what's the word, kabi, the word mold, things like that. Like really fun, really simple, really basic humor. Like the thing is, like, it's the same gag it's the same gag on repetition every time, and yet you'll still really enjoy it. I don't suggest binge reading this because it will get a little bit tiring, but at the pace of like one volume when it comes out, you read it then, and then just patiently wait for the next one. I think that's a really good pace, because otherwise it is the same gag over and over again. Like it's just puns and puns about Yakuza and like the white stuff. Like whenever he brings out like for example, when he's fighting against the mole and he's like, oh, I got the good stuff, and you know, this nice white powder will really take care of everything. And so you always think he's talking about like cocaine, but really he's just like talking about like baking soda, you know, stuff like that. Or when he's cooking, it's always like flour or sugar or things like that, but it's always the white stuff. So it's really fun, really silly, really humorous, but just a good lighthearted read to push you through your day, which is really nice. So then that's all I was able to read. I have not finished Anna Karenina. After I went to Korea for 5 days, and then when I came back from Korea, my work just doubled, almost tripled in terms of pace, which is actually, so basically we're back to our busy season. It seems we were kind of for a few months from the beginning of the year up until the end of March, we were definitely going through our slow season, but now we're having a strong uptick and we're going back to our fast up season. Well, just to say, to stop elongating this explanation, but just to say that I've been so busy at work lately that Anna Karenina, I have not been able to finish like the last 130 pages as I suspected. So I am gonna have to prolong that until this month, if April, but I do see myself finishing it this month. It would be, even if I got too busy, I would force myself to finish it this month, because this is the second time I'm going through Anna Karenina. The first time I never finished it. So even though I was enjoying it, so I don't want that to happen again, because the whole purpose of me trying to read this again was to actually finish it. Like actually make it to the end, like stop, like finishing a book a few pages before the end, like stop doing that. So to prevent myself from doing that, in April, I will be finishing it no matter what. Like that's my plan, that's my goal. So I haven't finished Anna Karenina, but that will happen. And that's it. So basically what I'm currently reading, I started reading The Nun by Denis Diderot, Denis Diderot. It's really hard to say French names in English accent. Denis Diderot. Diderot. Yeah, Denis Diderot. This is actually a French classic. I kept meaning to buy this book for years, and I kept telling myself, no, I need to read it in the original French. But every time I went to France, I kept forgetting about it, and then I kept repeating that, and then I finally bought it in English, and then read the fact that it was translated. Like, crap, this was the book that I was waiting to buy in France, and it's a big mess. But whatever it is, I am reading in the English translation instead of the original French. That's fine. But this is basically this. It's I have to read you the summary of this, like the blurb, because it's just crazy. In 1758, Diderot's friend, the Marquis de Croixmare, became interested in the cause célèbre of a nun who was appealing to be allowed to leave a Paris convent. Less than a year later, in an affectionate attempt to trick his friend, Diderot created this masterpiece, a fictitious set of desperate and pleading letters to the Marquis from a teenage girl forced into the nunnery because she is illegitimate. So I think that just sounds really, really amazing, and it has been really fun. So basically, yeah, it's you're reading the letters of a nun, of a young nun who has been forced into nunnery by her parents, and her trying to leave that world because it's not the world she wanted to be into it. Now, I have a thing. I love Gothic books, and I love books that show the hypocrisy of religion. Like, that's my jam. I love those kind of books. The Monk is one of my favorites. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I love Frollo in Notre Dame de Paris. Like, I love seeing religion taken down. Like, that's just one of my things. So the idea of this young nun being forced into a convent and her trying to escape it and all the trouble she's going through during this time is absolutely fascinating. Like, there are some passages here that are absolutely stunning, which really just show the harms of religion, the hypocrisy of religion, but also the damage it does to young women, the lack of freedom for young women in making their own choices. It also goes into the role of parents, etc., etc. So this is I'm maybe a third of the way through this book, and it's just, if it weren't for my midlife crisis, I would have already finished this a long time ago, because it's really, really fascinating. Really, really love it. And then in terms of manga, I decided randomly to try and, pick my spirits back up and try to find the meaning of life again. I picked up volume 1 of a childhood favorite, Yu Hakusho, a really, really famous shonen manga about a boy entering the spirit world, basically, and fighting in the name of the spirit world. So I read this in the French translation when I was back in high school, and I've always wanted to read it in the original Japanese, so I randomly decided, you know what, this is the time, let's do it. So I just started it this past week. I've only read about, I've read about 100 pages only, just a short little chapter per day during lunch, but it's been really, really relaxing and very nice to revisit this world. So that's what I'm reading. And then that's it for what I'm currently reading. I do want to mention 2 books that I bought in Korea, because these are the only 2 books I bought this year yet. So it seems silly to make a book haul. And then I'm not planning on buying any of the books. Maybe not until the summer anyway, at least until the book sale happens, because I'm not reading, so there's no reason for me to buy books. But when I was in Korea, I did want to buy some Korean books in translation. I wanted to see if I couldn't find any gems. Now, the 2 books that I found were not those gems, in the sense that they're not something, they weren't something I discovered. These were books I turned out I was already aware of. So I didn't find any hidden gems. I only found books that I was already familiar with and aware of, books that I'd already decided I wasn't going to read. But these 2 I decided I would pick them up. The first one is called Whale by Chon Myung-kwon. This cover is absolutely fascinating. I think this will definitely be one of those like favorite covers of the year because this book is just amazing. Like this whale and the shape of a movie theater, I think is just genius. Like whoever created this, absolutely amazing. It's a cover design and illustration by Ginevra Rapisardi. Fantastic. Like this, so good. It just says a modern masterpiece and satire on South Korea's recent history. That's all I'm going to look. It seems kind of absurd, but I mean the cinema is in the shape of a whale, so I mean that makes sense. It does seem a little absurd. I have to admit, so far I've not really gotten too much along with South Korean fiction. It hasn't really intrigued me too much lately. There's nothing, I've read a little bit and nothing's, let's just say I'm still trying to find a book from South Korea that I really loved. I still don't think this will be it, but I'm still intrigued enough to want to read it. And then of course, again, this cover is just a genius. So yeah, so that's the Whale, not the whale, but just Whale. And then the next book I bought is actually historical fiction. I tend to do better with historical fiction than I do contemporary work. So I bought this Beasts of a Little Land by Joo-hae Kim. And it is 1917 and Korea's under Japanese occupation. Obviously anything that has to do with Japan is something I want to read because that's just me, you know. I live in Japan and I'm fascinated, especially with Japan during during the war. That's just one of those things that I find absolutely fascinating. So yeah, I think this will be a little bit up more my alley. And it's been a while since I've read historical fiction, to be honest. I read a lot of history. And I read like old books. I read books, but so I read a lot of history in terms of nonfiction, but I do tend to read books by authors during the time period that they're writing about. I don't tend to read too much historical fiction, but every once in a while I do enjoy it. So this one looks like a nice choice because it is a book that sweeps through 5 decades of Korean history in an intricately woven tale of love stretched to a breaking point and 2 people who refuse to let go. So there we go. Beasts of a Little Land. Those are the 2 books that I bought in Korea while I was there. And yeah, that's it. Otherwise, I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm traveling. Well, April should be fine. April I should be able to do videos, but I might not be able to do a wrap-up for a little while at the end of April because I will be in Texas, and I don't plan on filming while I'm in Texas this time around. My Texas videos were absolutely awful, like terrible, like absolutely terrible. It's unfortunate because there's a lot of good information in those videos, but they were just really bad. So I didn't end up posting a lot of them. The last video, the read real Japanese recommendation, like the information was solid, but I was terrible in that video. I kept saying all the time. I didn't know what I wanted to say. The quality wasn't good. The energy wasn't there. So, I mean, I posted it because I wanted the information out there, but it's just not a good video. The Texas videos weren't good. But in any case, yeah, I'm not gonna film again in Texas this time around because I'll be pretty busy since this time I'm not going alone. I will have friends coming with me, which will be really fun. And I think it'll make the trip a little bit more exciting. But yeah, so my schedule is going to be a little off, I think. And then, yeah, just kind of like looking for inspiration as to what to make videos about. You know, it's hard to make book videos when you're not reading, to be honest. And it's also hard, I think, to make videos when you're not reading what's popular with other people, because it's hard to like hitch on to other people's videos and like do reply videos or make reaction videos about, you know, movie trailers or things like that. Like, it's hard to do because I don't read books in those genres typically. So I'm trying to find ideas for videos today to make, but to be honest, I'm kind of struggling with that. But yeah, anyway, thank you so much for watching. And I will see you guys again in my next video, which hopefully I'll have one next week. But if not, sorry, but I'll see you in the next video anyway. So yeah, thanks you so much for watching. Bye.